The desert of Kaban stretched for miles, silent under the harsh noon sun. Wind swept across the canyons, carrying the scent of dust and sagebrush. On a rocky ridge stood a woman, barefoot, trembling, her face streaked with tears and sand. Her name was Nita, an Apache woman cast out by her tribe. They had called her infertile, cursed by the spirits, unworthy of the hearth or the hunt. Tradition had no mercy for those who could not bring new life to the camp. So they left her there on the edge of nowhere, with only the clothes on her back and the ache in her heart. She had walked for days, her feet blistered, throat dry as stone. The land seemed endless, a cruel god's playground. Crows circled above, waiting for her to fall. But Nita refused to give them the satisfaction. She had been beaten, shamed, abandoned, but she would not surrender. Every step was a prayer whispered to the wind, every breath a defiance of the curse they claimed she carried. She followed the riverbed, cracked and shallow, hoping it might lead her to water or perhaps to death, whichever came first. Far beyond the canyon, Sheriff Thomas Kane of Kaban rode the edge of his patrol. He was a man known for silence more than words, a veteran of wars that had left scars on his soul. The badge on his chest shone dull in the sun, as worn as his conscience. Kaban was a frontier town, a place where justice was more dust than law, and men did what they had to survive. He had seen Apache raids, settlers' vengeance, and the endless cycle of pain between them. Yet something in him still believed in decency, however rare it was in those parts. As he rode along the ravine, Kane saw a shape in the sand. At first he thought it a mirage, a body half buried in dust. He dismounted and knelt beside it. Nita's lips were cracked, her skin burned raw. She stirred faintly when his shadow fell across her. "Easy," he murmured, pouring a few drops of water onto her lips. She tried to speak, but only a rasp escaped. He lifted her gently, feeling the frailty of her frame, and carried her to his horse. "You'll be all right," he said, though he wasn't sure she could hear him. Back in Kaban, the townsfolk watched with suspicion as Kane rode in carrying the unconscious Apache woman. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some called her a spy, others said she was cursed. Kane ignored them all. He took her to his cabin at the edge of town, laid her on his cot, and tended her wounds with the same care he once gave his dying soldiers. For 3 days she drifted between sleep and pain, haunted by memories of drums and betrayal. When she finally awoke, she found the sheriff sitting beside her, reading an old Bible by lamplight. "Where am I?" she asked weakly. "Kaban," he replied, setting the book aside. "You were half dead when I found you." She turned her face away, ashamed. "You should have left me." "My people already did." Kane's voice softened. "No one deserves to be left to die out there." Her eyes searched his face, unsure whether to trust him. In the world she knew, men did not help for free. But his eyes held no hunger, only a quiet weariness. She nodded faintly, too tired to argue. Days turned into weeks. Nita regained strength, though her heart remained heavy. She spent her mornings by the window, watching the desert change colors with the sun. Kane rarely spoke, but he always left food for her, fixed the fence, or fetched water without asking for thanks. Slowly, she began to feel something she hadn't known in years: safety. One evening, as the orange sky bled into twilight, she asked, "Why do you live alone?" He paused before answering. "Too many ghosts," he said simply. She understood. Ghosts had many faces: war, loss, shame, and they haunted both of them. The town's gossip grew bolder. "Sheriff's keeping a squaw," they muttered at the saloon. Some demanded he send her away, fearing her presence would curse the town. Kane faced them one night with the same calm steel he'd shown outlaws. "She stays," he said, hand resting near his gun. No one argued. But hatred has a way of finding cracks in peace. A few nights later, 2 drunken men came to his cabin, shouting that no Apache woman belonged on white land. Kane met them at the door, rifle in hand. "You take one more step," he said, "and you'll find out how the law works in Kaban." They left, but not without spitting curses into the dust. Nita heard it all. When Kane returned inside, she stood trembling by the hearth. "You risk everything for me," she said. "Why?" He looked at her, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. "Because someone should have done the same for me once." Her heart ached with something she couldn't name. Gratitude, perhaps, or the first spark of belonging. She stepped closer, her voice soft. "Then maybe the spirits brought you to me." He smiled faintly. "Or maybe we both just got lucky." As months passed, Nita learned to help around the cabin, cooking, tending horses, and even mending Kane's torn shirts. He taught her to shoot, to read a little, and she taught him Apache words for the things he'd long forgotten to appreciate: wind, water, peace. In the quiet of the desert nights, they spoke less and understood more. The line between two worlds blurred, not through romance, but through shared survival. They were two broken souls who found a strange, fragile peace together, but the frontier never let peace last. One morning, a messenger from the army rode in, bearing orders. The cavalry planned to sweep the nearby Apache camps, driving them north.
Kane's heart sank.
He knew what that meant, blood and fire again. When Nita heard, her face went pale. "My people," she whispered. "They will kill them." She begged him to intervene, to warn them. He hesitated, torn between duty and conscience. Finally, he said, "We'll ride at dawn." They crossed the desert together under moonlight, reaching the canyon before sunrise. When they found the camp, her tribe scattered at the sight of the sheriff's badge. Nita stood before them unafraid. "I am not cursed," she said in her tongue. "The white man's mercy did not kill me, it saved me." Her words struck like thunder. Even the elders who had once banished her lowered their heads. Kane stayed silent, watching as she reclaimed her dignity. When they rode back to Kaban, the wind carried a sense of quiet redemption neither could explain. Years later, travelers spoke of the sheriff of Kaban and the Apache woman who lived by his side. Some called it legend, others called it sin. But those who had seen them together knew the truth. They were proof that mercy still had a place in the Wild West. When Kane died, Nita buried him beneath the same cottonwood tree where he had first found her, then sat beside it as the sun dipped low over the desert. She whispered, "You gave me life when the world took it away." The wind carried her words across the sand, where they would live forever in the memory of Kaban.